in my childhood and even through my teen years, even some family members always try to kind of like quiet my voice and, oh, you're too loud. You're a lady. You shouldn't be talking like this. For those that follow me on social media, I can be a potty mouth sometimes, when it comes to certain things. So I really tried to kind of suppress that initially coming in, and I follow and have a couple of women mentors that are in the industry. And one person in particular, I would say Vashti. He's the creator of the Carolina Blitz. And she had a conversation with me on the phone one night, which really changed my perspective, which really was just be yourself. If you're like everybody else, how do you stand out? If you are the same, then you're gonna get overlooked. You're gonna get your be you. And that conversation probably changed just how I go about living, being loud, being boisterous. I'm gonna be passionate. I'm gonna go at your neck. This is just me. And I feel like ever since I started being me, I literally have not had to look back. So that's what it means to me, just walking in who you are, being true to yourself. As far as the challenges, just what you said earlier, being labeled as the angry Black woman, or just because we're women in sports, because we're women, we don't know, or a lot of times because we're much more logical in the thought process than they are. We shouldn't be talking about it, like that, just that kind of stuff, backhanded comments, underhanded comments, that kind of stuff. And so certainly in this industry, you have to be able to, like, y'all know, like, have tough skin. So that's kind of the stuff that I've kind of dealt with so far.
No, definitely. Did anybody want to say anything else on that?
Yeah, no, I just want to touch on that and say that siding with you,
I
Ashley
can.
and Chanel, in terms of
Oh,
wait.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Jeray. Go ahead. Go ahead. And then it was
Okay.
Courtney. So
Yeah,
we'll
well,
do
just,
Jeray and Courtney.
owning. Okay. Yeah, well, just owning your space, owning your voice, just being labeled as that angry Black woman. I mean, I think we've all heard that stigma before, and that's something that, of course, your counterpart that is usually a white male, they have the same boisterous outcries, or anger issues, or anything that you really want to call it, and it's called them being passionate. It's called them,
Right.
just wanting to kind of be passionate. And us, it's something that's completely different. And you're angry, you're trying to cause something, you're frustrated, you're acting on emotion. And that's a lot of things that women have to deal with, is that we're always acting on emotion. It's never acting on logic or anything like that. But male counterparts, they can't really do the same thing. So it's just really just owning your space and understanding that it's just like, people are going to label you any type of way anyway, so you might as well just own it all together. And it's just like, if it's the angry Black woman, then that's it, so be it. I don't really care what anybody else has to say, because if they can do it, and they can get away with it, then why do we have to be this sweet, pleasant, kind, quiet, timid voice that's not really shining in the space? That's just, I think, not allowing us to own our voice, not allowing us to, be outspoken and share our thoughts, and be in a room, and really just shine in a room. So I just really agree with what you guys are thinking and what you guys are saying.
Oh, that is really, that's true. Courtney, I think you wanted to say something.
yeah, like for me, it was mainly about owning and claiming my own identity. That was even outside of the industry, my own identity. That helped me navigate through the sports industry. You know what I mean? Like, there's things outside your career that has so many pressures or stereotypes in regards to who you are already. Whether it's how you grew up, or who you hang
Right.
out with, or what school you went to, who your family is, like all of that pressure. You know what I mean? You have to identify who you are, and then once you figure that out, for me, I can only speak obviously for myself, but I do believe that for everybody else, they can relate. Is once you identify who you are and claim your own identity, it helps you navigate throughout your career, and who you want to be and how you want to go about doing that.
No, I definitely agree with what you're saying, and it kind of when we try to get our own identity, I think that's how sometimes they try to put us up against each other. They try to make us be the same. You know, like if you have two women on the same show, two women doing the same thing, they try to they don't want us to have identity, because if we have identity, then we realize like, oh, okay, I don't need to put you down in order for me to get to another level. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's what they try to do in the industry a lot, because they know that we're more powerful together. So what they do is that
Absolutely.
they put us against each other, and I feel like that's another thing for the future, for the people who are coming after us. Like, how can we uplift and help other women own their voice? Because I think it all starts with, like Courtney said, owning your identity, like knowing who you are. Because if you know who you are, you won't be worried about what the next person is doing or
Yep.
how good they're doing it. So um, if anybody wanted to jump on that, Whitley, if you wanted to jump in
Yeah.
on like how can we uplift other women to own their voice.
Well, I know for me personally, from my experience, I was entering a field that was kind of unheard of for someone like me. And Tony can speak to this too, because we worked together at Fox Sports Southwest, which is now Valley Sports Southwest. Still sounds weird to say. But anyways, I was an associate producer for the Dallas Stars, and that's a hockey team, obviously. And whenever we would be working together, and for the games and stuff, especially when we moved to the arena, I got stopped one time because they were just like, "Wait, no, the Mavericks don't play till tomorrow," and I'm just like, "Oh, because I'm black, you think I
Yeah,
can't
Right.
you
cover
can't like
hockey?"
hockey.
It's like, don't get me wrong, I know I'm a unicorn, I know, trust me. Um, but just what my mom would always tell me is that no matter what you're doing in life, know that what you are doing is you belong in that position. You know,
Right.
no matter what you look like, what other people around you look like, you're there for a reason. So you need to own that. And kind of what Courtney was saying is like you're finding your identity. And that's something I struggled with for a long time, because when your coworkers are middle-aged white men and you're not, it's hard to kind of find a safe space. So I would just suggest to other women is that once you find your identity, be confident that you got this job for a reason and that you belong. Because, like I said, I struggled with that for a long time, doubting your own knowledge when you're just like, wait, I know this, but wait, do I know this? And
Mhm.
you do. You'd be surprised how
Absolutely.
much we don't give ourselves enough credit. We put in the work, we do our homework just as much as the guys do, if not more, but yet we still have a cast of doubt over ourselves. And so I feel like that's kind of the own internal struggle that is ongoing, but gets better with time. And so my mom would always tell me that whatever room you walk in, know that you belong. It doesn't matter if no one looks like you, be that trailblazer. But then at the same time, don't put the weight of the world on you because you're
Mhm.
the quote unquote trailblazer. You're still human. You're still going to make a mistake. You know, I struggle with that too, as well, being on camera. I mean, also Tony can attest to this too. I was the only black female on camera covering high school's football, and it was nothing but white blonde women as my coworkers. Love them to death, but I put unnecessary pressure on myself because I felt like I was representing a lot of different people, you know. Um, but yeah, like I was saying, just be confident in what your abilities are, and everything else will work out for itself.
And just to piggyback off of her, I would hope that women wouldn't fall into the trap of the imposter syndrome, because that's exactly what you're talking about. You know the material, you've gone to school. I mean, I know women that have multiple degrees in the field that they are in, and they still feel like that they aren't enough, or they don't belong there, or like you said, they don't walk into the room and own it, and you legit have the papers to back that you actually do belong in the room that you've walked in. So sometimes we'll fall into the trap. I am a huge person of the imposter syndrome. Like despite the hustle, despite knowing that I am supposed to be in the same room, sometimes I kind of like clam up. So like you said, as time goes on, it'll get better. But hopefully this conversation tonight will help you start to do it now. Just walk into it right now. Walk into that door right now, because you are exactly, don't let me get the Holy Spirit. You are exactly where God got you.
Amen.
Listen,
Amen.
you better start
Right,
off
but
saying
for
it.
real.
You know, doors opening that God don't intend for you to walk through. If there's not a door that He has for, it's going to stay closed. So own it. Don't fall into the imposter syndrome.
Amen.
No,
Absolutely.
that was yeah, that was. Were you gonna say something, Sequoia?
Oh yeah, I just want to like piggyback off of all of you, just sitting back and just listening to what you ladies are saying, and just like saying, pretty much owning your identity and not falling into that trap, and knowing that you are enough, and that goes like whether you're in the industry of sports or just in life in general. A lot of times we tuck our tail. I always refer back to one of my favorite poems, which what is your deepest fear? And it's like us dimming our light for other people to feel comfortable around us. So just always know, like, you're right. Let me check my own resume real quick. I know I got this many degrees. I'm here for a reason.
Right.
They want me here to fill in this space. So it's just like us having that confidence in knowing who we are. So I love that identity and just owning it, basically.
Yeah. And I
No, and
love that poem.
yeah,
I love that poem.
I
and
love it.
what
Yes.
when what you were saying, Sequoia, like we and I think Ashley was she touched on it a little bit too. Like we have the credentials, and it's crazy because we watch our like white counterparts not have the credentials
Mm-hmm.
and be comfortable in the space that they're in. Like, and I feel like we're seeing that a lot more uh, in sports. Like we're seeing people not like you can tell who's been doing their homework. You can tell who's been doing their work. And I feel like it's because there's so many women who we feel like we have to check all the boxes. We have to know everything in order to get like we have to do double the work. We have to do twice the work just to get the opportunity. Just not to get the job, but to get the interview for the
Opportunity.
job.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So yeah, just to get that. So I feel like when we look at our resume and we're questioning, because there's sometimes and someone had to tell me like even if you feel like you're underqualified, apply for that job because there are your white counterparts are doing the same thing and they're getting that job. So
Uh-huh.
um, I just think that that's just it's changing because we do have so many women and so many like women of color that are we're about our business. Like you're never gonna like we're gonna outsmart you every single time. We're gonna know what we're talking about. And so I feel like in the industry, people are feeling that pressure now because
Mm-hmm.
women, we know our stuff. Because in order to
Mm-hmm.
get there, we had to. Like there was no way we were not gonna know it and get in the position we're in. So I feel like just like what Ashley was saying, like, apply for that job. Like you might be missing one thing on there. Okay, like apply for that job because there's so many other things that's not on paper that we bring to the table. And I think that's so important for people to know being a woman in sports, being a woman in society, honestly, but because we're talking about sports, I think that's super important.
Absolutely. And moving on to our next discussion, where we're going to talk about like the importance of pretty much owning your voice in the workplace. And the perfect person that I can always think of or just go back to that I think is killing it right now and owning her voice in the workplace is Candace Parker. And she is a key example of like, hey, I'm not gonna take it. Okay, I know my stuff. I've earned the right to be here. Okay, I just got a ring, so no, but you know what I mean. Like she owns her stuff and owns her voice in the workplace. So, I mean, how is it? Do you guys feel? I guess when it comes to owning your voice and like applying for that job, and why does like how do most men they get looked at first before women do it, and how can we change that? I guess I'm asking. And if you might want to speak to that, Courtney.
Yeah. First, I don't know if I can speak to how we can change that officially, but um, for me, because when you bring up Candace Parker, I think about famous thing that when she told Shaq, I think, take the surprise out your voice. I think we've all experienced that, like our own story or our own, you know what I mean, situation to where we experienced some situation to where we had a male counterpart, whether he was white or black, to where he was surprised that you knew what you were talking about, or he, like you had this role and he was surprised about it. You know what I mean? For me, I kind of just go about it like I belong here. Not even like, I know that we talked about it earlier about credentials and, I have the paperwork. Even if I didn't have the paperwork behind me and I had the knowledge, you know what I mean? I do belong here because there's a lot of people that don't have the paperwork to back them up, but they're there already.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily have to have the paperwork, but if I can step toe to toe, you know what I mean, to you and or above you, or you're whoever is above you or next to you or whatever the case is, I belong here. You know what I mean? There's this huge stereotype growing up, like people would always say, how do you know about sports? Like, did your dad teach you that or whatever the case is? I would always say, I knew it from my mom. And that's
Yes.
100% true, is
Yeah.
I know a lot of sports is because of my mom, not my dad or my uncle or my brother or anything like that. And they're surprised by that fact as well. You know what I mean? So I think it's women in sport of what we know. You know what I mean? Like they look, and it's hard to go from there because there's athletes that get challenged every single day. They play the sport, they practice the sport, they, you know what I mean? They read about the sport, they study the sport, they've known about it their whole life, but they still get challenged every single day. So who am, you know what I mean? Like it's very hard to have this gender thing. It's I hate to compare it to race, but it's like, how do I change somebody's perspective just because I'm a woman and this wasn't a gender that I chose, but it's something that I like. Like this is something that I chose. I'm no different from you when it comes to what I know. I just have a different part than you. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
urinate different than you type thing. So you know what I mean? My gender is different from you, but my brain can work the same way that yours can.
That's a fact. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And going off a little bit of what Courtney was saying in terms of just, knowing, having the more knowledge, like just having more knowledge and knowing that, you know what, I know that I know more than all the men in this room. I know that I know sports. I know that I know what I'm doing and things of that sort. And also knowing that I am the one person that's probably representing, black women, representing women in general, but black women especially in that space is just like this, okay, like it's show up and show out. Like that's how my mentality is. It's show up, show out. So it's just like if it's only gonna be me and it's gonna be 11 other white men at the table, it's just like you guys are probably all thinking the same. They're all probably thinking in that same type of level. So it's like I'm gonna be that one different voice. I'm gonna be that one person that's gonna make them think outside the box. I'm gonna be that one person that's gonna challenge their way of thinking, challenge their way of thinking of, you know what, we're all men, we're all of the same race, we're all those things, and I'm the one person that's completely different and have a different train of thought, but also know that my knowledge can stand across everybody in that room. I think it's just having confidence in yourself, and that's something that kind of grows with you within time of just, this is where I belong. This is what I'm meant to do. God makes no mistakes in putting me in this position. So it's like, why should I feel like, oh, I don't belong here. I don't deserve to be here, because they all feel like they deserve to be there. And more than likely, they're not as qualified as you to be in that space. So it's just owning that in general and just being like, you know what? I'm here because I had to work twice as hard. And I know that it was probably 10 times harder for me to get here than any of my counterparts that are in this room. So it's just like there's a reason why I'm in this space, and it's just like own it, just own it, go with it.
And just piggybacking off of what good sis just said, honestly, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is something that, you know,
Yeah.
it's going to be some years down the road, but it starts with this generation here, because that is how, going in there with that mentality and that attitude and owning it, like we've been talking about, when you walk into the rooms, that means that maybe not necessarily my daughter, but my daughter's daughter, when she walks into the room in 20 to 30, 40 years, they already know, oh, okay, look, history has taught us that she probably know what she's talking about. History has taught us she's going to give us a different perspective. It's going to start with this generation. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. I don't think anybody here really has the answer as to how we're going to get them to choose men over us in this male dominated industry. It's the only thing I can say is it starts now, and it starts with us. It starts with the Monica McNutts. It starts with the Maria Taylors. It starts with, all of the women that we see doing what they're doing now. I think
Yeah.
in a couple of decades, unfortunately, I would hope it'd go faster than that, but I think, some years down the road, we won't even have to have this kind of conversation on a panel. How to, get these questions before men do. So, but it starts now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I agree exactly what you're saying, Ashley. And I think that there's really, like you said, there's no answer to it, but I think it starts with being in, like, we can't people don't believe can't people can't like believe what they don't see. So if they don't
Right.
think that it's if they don't see that, oh, you can be a woman in this position, if they don't see it, then they're not going to believe it. And I think, like you said, it starts with us. It starts with us advocating for ourselves. Like the past, like maybe year and a half, like I've been a huge advocate for myself. Like just because no one else is going to advocate for me, no one else is going to
Mm-hmm.
go as hard for myself than I am, and I'm gonna always be my biggest fan. So I think that it starts with us owning our voice. Once we own it and once we're confident in it, advocating for ourselves, so that when those positions come, those positions of power, those leadership positions, we're saying, we're letting people know we belong here. We're challenging people. Why is this person getting picked and I'm not? What is it on paper that's different? What can I do for the next time that I'm ready for this position? That way, once I get in the position, other women know it's possible and they can apply for the position, and I have that power to be like, no, we want her, and then I want her, and doing things like that. So I think that it ultimately starts with us advocating for ourselves. Like it's okay to toot your own horn, and I think that sometimes, like as women, we're not that comfortable doing that because people think that we're cocky, or people think that we think that we're better than other people. But I think that it's okay to let people know you belong, and let people know that you would be best for the position, or you would be best for the job. So that's something that I think about. I think of just advocating for myself so that I can put myself in a position, and so that the next little black girl that's applying for it, I can be the one that's like, no, we're taking her, because it's been going on forever, but it's been for the white men. Like, no, 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 that's my son's friend. Nope, that's my best friend's
Mm-hmm.
son. Like it's been going on
Right.
forever. And so now I just feel like it's time for us to be in those positions, so that we're like, no, 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 you can't trump me. Like I'm over you. So we're bringing her in. And I think it just starts with like advocating for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I feel like maybe the only other person that may advocate, I know you said there ain't nobody going, but probably our mamas, but they don't
Your
want my
mama,
Yeah,
your
yes, yes.
grandma.
Yeah, they don't want that.
they don't want that smoke. They really don't want my mama to come up in there, because if she come up in there, you.
Yeah.
No, for real.
So, but yeah, yeah.
That's for sure.
I think our next, we kind of talked about this, like just like how, what our voice means to the industry. So I think like when I see that, I think of like you name some people, you name like some Monica McNutt, some Maria Taylors. When we think of some the Jamel Hills in the world, the Carrie Champions, like when I think of how important, like what our voice means to the industry, it doesn't only touch the industry to me, it touches like the sports. Like, like if, yes, I want to, it's important. I feel like we're as women, like we have so much on our shoulders. Like we want to do so much. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we want to give this person this opportunity. And at the same time, we want to put on for women's sports. Like it's just, we have so much like on our checklist because we've been doubted for so long. And so I guess that's the next that's kind of the next topic, like what our voice means in this industry. Like what does it mean to like advocate for women's sports in the workplace and in the sport?
I mean, well, first thing that I always think about is, well, WNBA, for instance, right? Something that really bugs me about ESPN is the fact that we'll have the WNBA finals going on. Nothing else important will be going on in the sports world. I literally, game two of the WNBA finals, they had an old fight on ESPN and put the women's game, a finals game, on ESPN2. Now, any other game, any other male sport that it's, we're in the finals, we're in the final stages. It's the championship. This is for a championship. You will see promotion. They will get the main channel ESPN. They will get everything. Sports Center will be leading into that. Sports Center will be there. They will be
Right.
making it a big event. Now, it was beautiful to see at the WNBA finals that, every game was sold out. Chicago was loud, Chicago, but it also starts with the multimedia companies and the companies that we are working for and the companies that have, that are advocating and saying they support inclusion and diversity. They need to also show that when they are covering women's sports. A lot of the times it's like women's sports get the back burner. We'll put you on ESPN2 and we'll have the World Series of Poker going on ESPN. That's not
Right.
even a sport to begin with. So it's just like, why is it that women's sports are constantly delegated to the second hand, to the back street? But not only that, like you just think outside of just women's sports, also women that are talking about sports. A lot of the times when you're watching like a First Take or something, you see Molly Karam. She's a moderator. She's never in there in the discussion. Stephen A, Marcus Spears, Michael Irvin, whoever it may be, they're in the discussion. They're talking sports. They're doing all of those things. Now, yes, they've done a better job as of recently in terms of putting Monica McNutt in there, in terms of putting Kimberly Martin in there. But it's just like it needs more representation. Why is Molly Karam just there as a moderator? Why are women just there to moderate a conversation between men? Women should be a part of the conversation too, because they offer the same knowledge, if not more. As to Chanel's point, we offer a lot more logic probably in the space of sports, especially that they can offer. So it's just like having women lead a show, be a moderator, but never be a part of the discussion is just something that, there's still a major disconnect where it's like, we'll let women lead a sports center like an L. Duncan. We'll allow women to lead certain things, but it's still like if you have two women there, you definitely need a man there. It's never just three women unless they're covering women's sports. That's the only time we see them is if they're covering women's college basketball, women's soccer, the WNBA, something like that. But you never really see women's broadcasters a part of an NBA broadcast besides Doris Burke. Other than that, they're sideline reporters. Other than that, those type of things need to change in order to see the next wave in terms of, what the sports industry needs to do next. And it comes across behind the scenes, on camera, where we're broadcasted, all of those things. We just need a bigger voice, a bigger platform, and more people to actually support women's sports and women commentators, women behind the scenes, just women in general.
I feel like a change like that starts at the top. You
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
know, we can't make people care about something that they already don't either A know about or just have zero interest in. And I've noticed that because covering the Dallas Wings, that was my very first job right out of college. And the lack of media there, it was amazing. But it kind of worked to my benefit because I got to know the players really well and they were comfortable with me and I missed a game. They were like, "Oh, where were you at last week?" I'm like, "You guys know who I am." But anyways, more serious note, it's almost a catch 22 because people, you want them to care about it, but they can't care about it if you don't show them the product, you know. And it was almost always like, well, nobody cares about women's sports. Well, why don't we put more out there, so like bring more awareness to it so they can care, you know. Then it comes
Right.
back to money and it's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Like you said, if there can be world class poker on the main channel, there's money somewhere, you know. But I feel like change like that, it's gonna move slow. It might not be our generation or our children's, but maybe their children's, um, until we really truly start seeing change. Because let's just be real, women's sports in general are the most disrespected group. You know, I
Mhm.
mean, I hate doing this, but just out of curiosity, every time Sports Center or ESPN tweet out something, anything women related, and you go down to the comments, It's like, are we back in the
Yeah.
1950s?
Yeah.
Oh my God. God forbid your daughter, niece, cousin, or whoever gets into sports. Is that how you're gonna view her to get back in the kitchen? Or oh, she
Mm,
can't cook, or it's terrible.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, a change like that is gonna have to start at the top. The people with money, people
Mhm.
with power are gonna have to almost force this upon people until to just gain more respect. Because like I said, we can't care about something that we don't know about. I had a lot of people tell me I didn't even know the WNBA finals was going on until game three. It's like, well, why is that? You
Mhm.
know,
Promotion, visibility.
promotion.
Nobody gives it
Yeah.
visibility.
Yeah. I mean, to be frank, it's like almost no one gives a damn. And I
Yeah.
hate that, but it is what it is. And I don't know when we will start seeing change. I know it's very slow because they did say numbers have grown every single year.
Mhm.
But it's like we can't settle. For
Yeah.
instance, when it came to like merchandise for the WNBA, you couldn't hardly find anything. Like, well, why is that? But let me go and find a LeBron jersey, you know,
Mhm.
or Kevin Durant. Like, it's your options are bountiful, So I don't know. It's frustrating, but we really won't see true change until the big dogs say so.
Yeah. I think that no, I agree. I think that for me, like you said, like people don't care, and I think that people don't care because, like you said, the people at the top don't care. So, like for me, like what I do at work, like I question people. I'm like, hey, why don't we have like there was I was like, hey, why don't we have like a preview of the WNBA game? And like sometimes people just aren't because that's just how they are programmed. They're like programmed not to care, which is why we need
Yeah.
more women. We need more Black women in these conversations. We need to be at the table because I don't think it was any I don't think that they like maliciously try to leave it off. I just think they don't know, they don't care, which is a problem because you're in this position to know every sport, but whatever. So I think that it's just like up to us, like, hey, this isn't on. Like, I don't see this being ran in the show. Like, you need me to cut it. You need what you need me to do to make sure that we're running this and having that conversation. And then, like you said, with the whole merchandise thing, when Kobe wore that WNBA hoodie, what happened? The WNBA
It's
hoodies
sold
were sold out
That's
Went
because there
up.
was
Yeah.
someone that people cared about.
correct.
Oh, Kobe's doing it. That means it must be cool. Like let me wear it now. Oh wow, the NBA players are wearing it. Like in the NBA players, they did it after Kobe. Kobe did it, so they were like, oh, Kobe's doing it. All right, it's time to support the W. Like not trying to be rude, but like that's what they did. So then once the NBA players did it, and we got Devin Booker wearing it,
Mhm.
LeBron is courtside at the game. Okay,
Chris
now
Paul.
people, yeah, now people are like, oh, the W is so lit. I don't think that, and people use the excuse of like, oh, the basketball is so bad. Basketball is not bad. Like if you like basketball, you will love the WNBA way more than the NBA to begin with
exactly.
because it's more fundamental. But people just go off of like society, like what's society like and what's cool right now, what's in. And I think right now the WNBA is just getting cool again
Yeah.
because we have people like LeBron James and Chris Paul and all those people are courtside at the game, Chance the Rapper's at the game. So now,
Right.
oh, Chance the
Mhm.
Rapper's at the game. Oh my gosh, WNBA is so cool. But it's like, no, like it's always been cool. You're just a follower.
We
Like,
been here.
yeah, you're just a
Exactly.
follower. Like you don't have any identity because like you're going off of what Chance the Rapper thinks is cool. So now you think the WNBA is cool. So I just think like that's an excuse sometimes that people use like oh it's not the basketball is not good like you haven't watched the game you don't know so I think that it starts with like having an ally like are you really an ally because people say that they're allies and they really aren't uh, they're just following the next person. So I guess that gets us to our next question. Like, what does an ally look like for women in sports as far as the women's sport and like women in sports as far as like um, sports media? What does an ally look like?
I guess I'll start.
Go ahead.
Oh, for me, an ally is somebody that uplifts your voice. doesn't silence you in a room. They never put you in a place where it's just like, okay, if you're dealing with something, or if you're dealing with an issue, or if there's something going on, they're not trying to silence you or dim your light. They're instead trying to help you find that light in a correct way, though, in a positive way, in a way that's going to implement some type of change, that's going to challenge people, that are going to challenge the way of people think. So an ally can be anybody. An ally does not have to be somebody that is necessarily black. It doesn't necessarily need to be a woman. An ally can be a white male for all we know. It's really just somebody that is going to help you shine that light, that is going to not always understand where you're coming from, but always try to find a solution and help you find that solution to help you move forward. So that's an ally to me. Allies, that those people, they're going to be there to support you, whether you're looking to be supported, whether you're not looking to be supported, they're just there. And yeah, that's how I see allies.
Yeah, for me, it's the same thing. Allies, mentor, pretty much, just schooling you on the game, and never letting you give up. There were times where I didn't necessarily want to like give up, because this is lit. This is it for me. Okay. But just again, that imposter syndrome that we talked about earlier, doubting myself, afraid to send that resume, afraid to apply for that job, not knowing if I'm gonna get it or whatever the case may be. Just that person that's gonna push you anyway. And even if you don't get the job, or you don't, move in the direction that you intended to move in at that time, they are there to, like you said, just uplift and look, let's keep it moving. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And it took me a long time. I'm like, I want it right now. It took me, we were talking off camera. I'm starting a new job this upcoming week, and it took me 6 years to like get a sports job. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon, and that took allies and folks in this business that have gone before me to remind me of that and understand it's coming. Stay true to you. Be consistent. It's coming. It's so important. Those people that's going to remind you that, or shoot you an email of a job opening. Those individuals that's going to say, "Hey, this is going on," or "Let me put you in touch with this person." There are people that really feel like that you might steal some shine, or really don't feel like that it's enough for everybody to go around. Like, everybody can eat. So it's really important that build those relationships, that you have the correct allies and the right mentors in your position. And while I'm here on this, I would love for that to be more women. I feel like there are a lot of men that try to step up in that mentorship role. And
Talk about it.
come on, next thing you know, there are rumors about this person was with this person to get to this, or this person. There are so many women in this industry that won't lend a helping hand, that won't talk, that won't. And so what do I do if I can't get any of the women to do it? I'm going to talk to the men, because they're more open to talking up. But then what does that look like? It looks like that I'm hanging and kicking it, and I'm mentoring with this person. So I did A, B, and C to get to here. One person who I feel like is incredible, and if I call her right now, she's picking up the phone, is Joy Taylor. She is always on just the vibe of giving back and just listening and just picking up the phone, and just, she is an ally. She is somebody that's going to give it to me straight. She's somebody that's going to say, this is what I think you should do. Hey, I think you should turn it down a couple notches, because again, she is before me, and she's gonna school me. So I would like for us it to be more women, and not to feel so threatened.
Yeah. That's also being confident. That's being confident in who you are.
Exactly.
That's because we can both be good. Like, just because you're good doesn't mean like I'm not. Like, and I think it starts with like Joy Taylor. Like, for me, you can tell she's confident. Nobody has to. So she gets so many nasty comments, but she's so confident in herself that she's just like, okay, like, I still have my job. I'm doing a great job. I do a great job. I know what I'm talking about. Let me lend this helping hand, because me helping Ashley, I'm not hurting myself. Like, just because we help someone doesn't mean we hurt ourselves. So I think like that narrative has to change.
Yeah, if you stay in your lane. Your lane is your lane, and it's only one of you. There's one of one. what's for you is not gonna miss you. So
Mhm.
not I mean I know people in the industry that literally will see a job for me. Oh, they'll think Ashley would do a really good job, and they never send me the information. They'll never send it
Yeah.
of some
Yeah.
that I'll
Hmm.
outshine, and I'm like, girl, I'm shining now. You might
Yeah.
give me the info. Like, what you doing? Like, come on now. So, just I would love to see more women in those mentorship roles as well, and those ally roles as well. That's
Absolutely.
that's what that means to me.
Yeah, for me, allyship, I think, is not even about understanding, but providing the space. Providing the space for opportunity for me to vent or to, to look up to you or to say my piece or give my perspective. All of that is allyship, even if you don't initially understand where I'm coming from or what I'm talking about or what I want to do, but giving me the space to do so. And I believe, like Ashley said, is it feels so good when that comes from another woman trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do. Or not even trying to do the same thing, but is already in that space. Or trying to get into that space. It's, the same way that I am too. It feels amazing to have that same person. Even if I don't understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I probably don't even agree with you, but I want to provide the space for you to get that information out because there could be other women in the same position that you are in. That's allyship to me, is allowing me to have that space, giving me that space, those opportunities that you run across that, you know what I mean? Like, don't feel threatened by me because maybe I'm looking up, towards you. I probably want to be where you are. And even if I'm not, if I want to be better than you, you can, root for me and our, be honest, our white counterparts. So,
No, I think for me, I've always been taught that there's enough food at the table for everybody to eat. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about what's on your good sis plate, because your talent is going to take you everywhere. And they always say it's who you know that gets you through the door, but it's what you know that keeps you in that same door, right?
That
mhm.
part,
So you
yes.
shouldn't worry about, oh, I'm going to block somebody else's blessing because I don't want them to
Right.
get ahead of me. Well, then you got to look at yourself in the mirror. Am I really as good as I think I am? If I feel threatened by someone else. And so I would always try to, like you said, create a space for somebody. Even if we're trying to go for this a similar goal. You know, like you said, what's for me is for me, and no one's going to take that away from me, you know? And also, I think a good ally is someone who's going to hold other people accountable to where you don't have to be that
That
person to
part.
always say something. And this actually happened very recently whenever we just got the verdict of the George Floyd case. I didn't want to go to work that day, but I had to go to work. I still had a job to do. And one of my coworkers, we were kind of talking about for our show how to handle it, how we should go about it. Because I don't know if you guys watch Sports Nation. We are the opposite of serious, And so we were trying to figure out how do we talk about this, but we have to talk about it because games being canceled, right, in the
Yeah.
NBA. And I had a coworker who immediately called out someone who was almost dismissing it. We were talking about, oh yeah, we should probably go to this tease and then, whatever. And then another coworker pivoted really hard. It was just like, oh yeah, we should do a poll question about MVP candidates. And he's like, wait, no, like, no, someone died and we finally got a verdict. We're not talking about a poll question right now. Just having that ally, someone who can just like call that stuff out immediately so it's not on me. And
Right.
he wasn't a person of color. And so that was really big on me. I'm not trying to applaud a fish for swimming, but let's be real, it's hard to find people who don't look like you who's willing to speak up and have those tough conversations and put someone else down, or not down, but like correct that behavior. So that's something that's truly important to me, especially being in the sports media where it's just not a lot of women and then not a lot of women of color. So you got two strikes against you almost So it's just nice to have someone like that in my show group.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you with those type of allies, the ones that's going to take accountability and step up when needed to be, because sometimes, like you said, it's not a lot of women within your industry, not a lot of women within um, African American women within the sports media industry as well. But as your ally, you know, hey, this is not right or this is wrong, and being able to speak up when they know that you probably you can speak up, but at the same time, hey, since I'm pretty much stepping on thin ice here. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's like, well, for them to speak up for you during those times and having your back and the extra support, that definitely shows a good ally and what it really means. Just like with us when it comes to the whole racial thing or anything like that. We have, you always say, oh, I have friends at this race or that race, but being a real good ally when it comes to it, it's like, hey, putting somebody else in their place when it's time. You know what I mean? So just like when it comes to that, it's good for like it's the guys if they're a good ally, and just how they do with Candace Parker to bring her up again. Hey, this is sis. She know what she's talking about, or this is her lane. This is what she's supposed to be doing. So I think that really does shows like good allyship, and
Mhm.
just being a woman as well. Um, Getting that love from other women in the industry is even a bigger step. So it's definitely something to be, I guess, aware of and take note of, and just owning that identity in that space.
No,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I completely agree. Like that's why we're like it starts with us. It starts with having these type of conversations and connecting other powerful and successful and dope women together, like not withholding information or withholding connections. Like this is why like we started doing the like she's got game because we want to be able to connect women from all over. So that's exactly why we do things like this. Like this was so amazing. Like you guys were like so dope. Like I was just as great as like we thought it was gonna be. Like hearing everyone's perspective. Like you guys said some like really really great things. Like we really really do appreciate like this conversation. Like I know I do. Like just listening to you guys and just hearing what different people have to say and hearing different perspectives. Like I learned a lot from each and every one of you. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for having this conversation. It was amazing.
Thanks for having
Thank
us
you.
on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Good.
Yes, this was
Thank you,
fun. This
ladies,
is
so much.
Definitely
Yeah,
necessary.
we have, yeah. And so if you don't, what we'll do, we'll get everyone's information as far as like social handles, and we can, so that when people who aren't live, when they go back and watch it on YouTube or on Facebook, they'll be able to just like go in the comments and follow you guys and follow your journey and things like that. So this is going to be on YouTube and it's going to be on Facebook. And yeah, this was amazing. Like, I love this so much.
Yeah, it was. I'm super grateful for sharing the space with all of y'all. I really am.
No, it's important. It's important. So yeah, like I'll make sure once we like this is over, we can send it to. I'll send you guys the link, so you guys can do whatever you want with that, and I'll make sure that your handles, Twitter and Instagram, are in the YouTube. But Sequoia, do you have anything to add?
I just want to thank you, ladies. It's definitely been like a privilege to be in the same space as y'all and sharing this safe space where we can like exchange stories and know that we're not alone in certain situations. Know that we have somebody to call on if we're going through things or if we need something. Just that sense of sisterhood and allyship between us all. I really really appreciate it because it's something that is very very much needed within the industry, very very much but much needed just amongst the women of color, professional women of color. So we really really appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. I know look, it was a long time coming in the beginning, but thank
I
y'all.
know, but it was so worth it. It was worth it.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Thank you for having us. This was great.
Yes.
Thank you.
for